Hi everyone, it's Sarah here, sending you warm greetings from California. I'm so excited to be here today, and we've got such an interesting conversation ahead. Thanks for joining us. So I wanted to share a recent cooking experience with you all. I was preparing this beautiful dish for a family dinner, Salmon Wellington, one of my absolute favorites. It's a flaky puff pastry filled with pink salmon, cream cheese, spinach, and herbs. This dish was for a special occasion. Jake and I were hosting a dinner to celebrate his promotion, and I wanted something elegant but still comforting. As I was gathering ingredients, I ran into an unexpected challenge. There was no pink salmon available at any of my usual stores. For those who might not know, pink salmon is the smallest of the Pacific salmon species. It's known for its mild flavor, soft texture, and rosy hue. It's popular in California, especially for lighter dishes like salmon salads, salmon burgers, or even grilled fillets. But that night, no pink salmon, and it was too late to change the menu. At first, I thought about substituting with another type of fish, but that didn't feel right. I wanted to stick to the plan, and that's when I had an idea. Instead of looking for more salmon, I decided to focus on the flavors. I created a salmon essence by using seaweed, capers, and a touch of fish sauce to bring out that oceanic, savory profile that's typical of pink salmon. Then I combined that with smoked trout, which gave a rich, almost buttery texture. It wasn't a perfect replacement, but it mimicked the flavors of pink salmon well enough that nobody even noticed the change. Plus, the smoky trout added a nice depth to the dish, and the Wellington turned out to be a hit.
Wow, Sarah, that sounds amazing. I can't believe you created a whole new flavor profile just like that. I'm curious, how did your kids react? Did they notice the difference, or were they just excited about the dinner?
Oh, Ava and Liam didn't notice at all. They were too focused on the puff pastry. They love it. For them, it was all about the crunchy, flaky crust.
That's such a creative way to handle the shortage, Sarah. I know in Florida, pink salmon can be scarce too. How did you decide to use smoked trout? Was it something you had on hand, or did you specifically choose it for the dish?
It was a little bit of both, Maya. I had smoked trout in the fridge for another recipe, but I chose it because it has a richness that pairs well with the other ingredients in the Wellington, like the cream cheese and spinach.
I love how you focused on the flavor essence. In New York, I run into similar issues with ingredients, but I usually just substitute. Now I'm thinking I should get more inventive. What gave you the idea to use seaweed and capers to replicate that pink salmon taste?
The seaweed idea came from sushi. I realized that seaweed can bring out that briny, oceanic flavor I was missing. The capers that had a slight tang, almost like you get from fish itself. It was definitely an experiment, but it worked out.
I'm really impressed, Sarah. Here in Texas, we don't see pink salmon as often, but when we do, it's usually for lighter dishes. How did the trout affect the overall richness of the Wellington? Did it make the dish heavier?
It did add a bit more richness, but the cream cheese and spinach balanced it out. The smoked trout isn't as fatty as some other fish, so it didn't overwhelm the dish. It just gave it a slightly heartier feel.
I've got to say, Sarah, your resourcefulness is inspiring. When it comes to buying pink salmon, one key criterion I always look for here in Florida is sustainability. With the variety of fish available year-round, I tried to make sure the pink salmon I buy is sustainably sourced. It's important to know where it comes from because it affects the quality and the long-term health of our oceans. The texture and flavor of sustainably caught salmon are often superior too, which matters when I use it in my food truck.
I completely agree, Ma. In New York, I usually buy pink salmon when I want to create something special for my food blog. Freshness is my top criterion. Salmon needs to be firm and smell clean, like the ocean. I love it for recipes like salmon tartare, where the texture really matters. If it's not fresh, it just ruins the whole experience, so I'm always on the lookout for that bright, firm flesh when purchasing.
That's a great point, Chloe. Here in Texas, I think about seasonality. Pink salmon is best when it's in season, and that's when I prefer to buy it for grilling or making salmon tacos. Off-season fish can be frozen for too long or lose its flavor. You want to be sure it's fresh from the current run and not last season's catch.
I love that, Jennifer. In Washington, I look for wild, caught pink salmon. Wild fish tends to have a better flavor and is more nutrient-dense than farmed varieties. I use it in simple dishes like salmon chowder, where the natural taste of the fish shines through. The wild varieties have a slightly firmer texture and a deeper, more complex flavor that's perfect for those kinds of dishes.
I totally agree with all of you. The last thing you want is to compromise on quality. For me, I also consider the fish's origin. I like to know the specific region the salmon comes from because the waters where they're caught can affect their flavor. California pink salmon tends to have a softer texture, which is why I often use it in dishes that require a delicate touch, like poached salmon.
As an alternative to pink salmon here in Texas, I'd suggest catfish. It's abundant and has a mild flavor that works well in many salmon-based recipes. While it's not as rich as pink salmon, it has a firm texture that holds up in grilling or frying. I've used it in tacos and even salmon patties. The difference is in the oil content. Catfish has less, so the dish ends up being lighter.
That's interesting, Jennifer. In Washington, I'd go for steelhead trout. It's a local favorite and tastes quite similar to pink salmon. The texture is a bit firmer, and the flavor has a richer, almost buttery quality. I love using it for chowder or baked dishes where I want that salmon-like profile without the same price point. In Florida, I'd recommend mahi-mahi as a good alternative. It's got that same flaky texture and mild taste as pink salmon, but with a little more sweetness. I've made a version of salmon burgers using mahi-mahi, and while the taste is slightly different, it brings a tropical vibe to the dish, which my customers love.
Here in New York, I'd substitute with Arctic char. It's got a similar flavor to salmon, but is a bit milder. The texture is perfect for searing or broiling, and it's more readily available when salmon stocks are low. The biggest difference is the fatness. Arctic char is a bit leaner, but still has enough richness to work in recipes where you'd normally use pink salmon.
Thank you all for such wonderful insights. Maya talked about sustainability, Chloe emphasized freshness, Jennifer mentioned seasonality, Emily focused on wild caught, and I highlighted the importance of the origin. You've all given such great perspectives on not only pink salmon, but also on alternatives when it's unavailable. I really appreciate your thoughtful contributions. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. It's been a fantastic discussion, and I hope you all found it helpful. Until next time, take care and happy cooking.